On July the 7th of 2013, only 8 days after their wedding, 22-year-old Jordan Graham murdered her husband, 25-year-old Cody Johnson, by pushing him off the edge of a cliff in Montana's Glacier National Park. The couple were hiking during their honeymoon when Graham allegedly told her husband she'd been having second thoughts about their marriage. Though she initially told police Johnson had gone for a joyride with friends and didn't know of his whereabouts, she eventually confessed to the crime but insisted it had been an accident. According to Graham, Johnson had grown hostile after the argument and had violently grabbed her arm, prompting her to push him away. She agreed to plead guilty to second-degree murder, but subsequently attempted to retract her plea when the prosecution continued to push for a life sentence. The judge didn't allow Graham to change her plea, sentencing her to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole and 5 years probation upon her release. Number 10. Lewisham Bride. On August the 13th of 2022, an unidentified woman clad in a white dress walked into a McDonald's kitchen and stole 2 Big Macs in Lewisham, London. Baffled customers recorded the incident, which started when the angry bride began ranting and arguing with employees. After she was told there were no more hamburgers available at the moment, the woman jumped over the counter and grabbed 2 Big Macs, shoving them in her dress and down her bra as employees tried to stop her. One of the managers repeatedly asked her to leave, but she continued to yell at other staff members, demanding more food and attempting to grab 2 other burgers from the hot plate. The bride eventually walked out of the store with the stolen hamburgers before police could reach the scene. No arrests were made and the woman had yet to be identified as of the latest available updates. Number 9. Ashley Jordan. Arizona newlyweds Ashley Jordan and Eric Cordova were arrested on July the 29th of 2019 for assaulting several police officers only hours after their wedding ceremony had concluded. Both 30-year-old Jordan and 32-year-old Cordova were still wearing their wedding clothes at the time of the arrest. The couple had reportedly become belligerent while drinking at a bar and attacked an employee, at which point the police were called to the scene. When officers arrived, Jordan and Cordova refused to cooperate with them. Several wedding guests subsequently charged the policemen in an attempt to help the newlyweds evade capture. 2 other men were arrested along with the couple, 31-year-old Dustin Trout and 25-year-old Amos Puckett, who were charged with aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. Fortunately, the officers suffered only minor injuries in the scuffle. Number 8. Adrienne Saman. On August the 28th of 2003, 19-year-old Adrienne Saman spent the night in jail after having a drunken meltdown during her wedding reception at a restaurant in South Windsor, Connecticut. Saman lost her temper after employees at the eatery allegedly closed the bar 45 minutes earlier than arranged and demanded guests leave the premises. The restaurant later claimed they only asked people to leave after some of the guests had jumped behind the bar and started pouring themselves drinks. Once out in the parking lot, Saman began destroying vases and gifts and throwing pieces of wedding cake as she berated both restaurant employees and her own guests. Saman was belligerent when police arrived and attempted to resist arrest. While in jail, she spat at a surveillance camera and attempted to throw her wedding ring away. Saman ended up pleading guilty to creating a public disturbance as part of a deal with the prosecution. She was ordered to pay a $90 fine and received a recommendation to take anger management classes. Number 7. Vanessa Klein. 32-year-old Vanessa Klein was arrested on March the 27th of 2019 after it was discovered she'd embezzled over $93,000 from her job in order to pay for her wedding. Klein's misdeeds came to light after her boss, the owner of No Limits Construction, was informed that one of the company's accounts would be closed due to lack of payment. He immediately contacted police and an investigation was launched, leading to the discovery that Klein had made several unauthorized purchases with company funds. While working as the construction's business's bookkeeper, she reportedly purchased a wedding dress, perfume, plane tickets, and an ATV. The bride-to-be even hired a wedding planner for $25,000 and also paid for a $7,000 butt lift. Klein's arrest wasn't the first time a No Limits construction employee had gotten into trouble for embezzling funds. Between 2016 and 2018, the previous bookkeeper had stolen over $150,000 before getting caught. Klein was charged with embezzlement, forgery, and putting false money into circulation. Number 6. Alexis Demetria Armstrong. Newlyweds Alexis Demetria Armstrong and Shavarius Jawan Moses were arrested in Abbeville, Alabama, after police discovered illicit substances in their car during a traffic stop on December the 15th of 2022. 26-year-old Armstrong and 28-year-old Moses were still in their wedding clothes as they drove from Alabama to Florida for their honeymoon. The couple was stopped for speeding, leading to the police's discovery of drugs in their vehicle. While Moses was charged with possession of a controlled substance and paraphernalia, Armstrong was accused of providing false information to law enforcement and carrying a weapon without the proper permit. The newlyweds spent the night in separate jail cells and were released after posting bond the following day. Number 5. Tammy Lee Hinton. Bride-to-be Tammy Lee Hinton was arrested during her wedding ceremony on July the 17th of 2011. The 53-year-old, who had an active warrant out for her arrest, was believed to be living in Florida, though her whereabouts remained unknown for 3 years. After police received a tip informing them she would be getting married in Jackson, Michigan, they decided to take her into custody on 3 charges of felony identity theft in the midst of her ongoing nuptials. Hinton had allegedly purchased both telephone and energy services and had also applied for a credit card in her son's name without his knowledge or permission. Hinton remained behind bars for half an hour while wearing her wedding dress before posting bail. She was arrested again 2 days later after failing to show up for a scheduled court appearance. If found guilty of her charges, she could face up to 5 years in prison and a $25,000 fine. Number 4. Maya Pugh. Tennessee woman Maya Pugh spent her wedding day behind bars after biting a Memphis police officer on August 27th of 2021. Police were called to the wedding reception after several guests, as well as the bride herself, sparked up a drunken brawl. Officers came across a visibly intoxicated Pugh as she was yelling at her guests for ruining her wedding. She attempted to flee the scene when law enforcement tried breaking up the fights. One of the policemen attempted to grab her, but Pugh resisted, biting him on the right shoulder and struggling to break free. The bride was eventually subdued and taken into custody. She was charged with aggravated assault, public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. Number 3. Amber Young. Arizona bride Amber Young caused a 3-car collision while driving to her wedding on March the 12th of 2018. Young, aged 32, was wearing a wedding dress at the time of the accident and was later determined to be heavily intoxicated. Only one of the drivers involved in the crash needed to be taken to the hospital, and they'd only sustained minor injuries. Young was arrested and voluntarily submitted to a blood test before her fiancé arrived to post bail. The video of her arrest was uploaded to social media by the Marana Police Department. It wasn't disclosed whether or not Young managed to attend the ceremony following her release. Today's topic was requested by Amber and David Larling Mawia. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Elizabeth Balog. 33-year-old Elizabeth Balog was arrested by immigration officers on her wedding day after the authorities discovered she'd been paid $400 to marry a stranger in Manchester, England. Balog and her husband-to-be, Asif Hussain, were reported to law enforcement in 2011 when a registrar became suspicious of their behavior. The bride, a naturalized UK citizen born in Hungary, was introduced to her 25-year-old Pakistani fiancé by her cousin, Valerie Farkas, who also acted as an interpreter. Balog and Hussain barely interacted with each other but wished to get married urgently. Following her arrest, Balog initially told officers she truly wanted to marry Hussain, claiming it had been love at first sight. Eventually, though, she admitted they weren't an actual couple and that the scam had been orchestrated by Farkas. All three suspects pleaded guilty to conspiracy to facilitate a breach of immigration law after it emerged that Hussein's student visa had expired and he was looking for a way to remain in the UK. The man was sentenced to a year in prison, while Balogh received a lesser sentence of 10 months. For her role in orchestrating the scam, Farkas was ordered to spend 6 months behind bars. Number 1. Kate Elizabeth Pritchard. On July the 31st of 2017, Kate Elizabeth Pritchard aimed a gun at her new husband hours after their wedding in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Police were called to the Clarion Inn where the newlyweds were spending their first night as husband and wife. Employees reportedly witnessed 25-year-old Pritchard pull out a 9mm pistol and pointed at her husband's head. The couple were heavily intoxicated and had been arguing outside a hotel leading up to the incident. Pritchard ended up pulling the trigger while the weapon was aimed at the man's head, but fortunately it wasn't loaded. The woman then loaded the pistol with bullets and fired a shot into the air before police arrived at the scene. She was arrested for aggravated domestic assault while still wearing her wedding gown. Thanks for watching. Would you rather marry a smoking underwear model or an old billionaire? Let us know in the comments section below.